Hello everyone, welcome back to another video of Automation Testing Insider. So this is part 16 of Selenium Framework Development series from scratch, and today we are going to talk about how we are going to achieve data-driven testing, or I would say parameterization, in our Selenium framework. So in the previous part we talked about how can we border an element in Selenium, like in case if it is pass, then how can we border using green color, and in case if it is field, then how can we border using red color. So that is what this is what we have discussed in the previous video. Now today we'll focus on how can we achieve the data driven testing or parameterization in our framework. So let's have a look the agenda quickly, and then we'll talk about some theoretical stuff before moving towards like the actual implementation. So we'll talk about what is data driven testing, guys, and benefits of data driven testing, and what are the different classes which we are going to use, the utility classes in our framework to implement or to achieve this data driven testing in the framework. And I'll show you the complete setup, or I would say the implementation in detailed way, right? We'll write the code properly and I'll show you how we can achieve this data driven testing. So let's talk about the first topic, what is data driven testing. So data driven testing, or I would say like a parameterization, a testing approach that separates test logic from test data, correct? So our test script should be separated from the test data, right? So the test data should be handled separately, like using any external file, let's say like a Excel file or CSV file, or directly we can access the data from database. So we should maintain our test data in a separate like external source in a file or from the database, right? So that is nothing but the data driven testing, so that we can easily maintain the data from the external source, and we can pass those data to our test script. Test data is stored externally, which we discussed, right? Like Excel file or CSV file, or we can access it from database. Automation scripts execute with different data sets that improves the coverage, right? So the ultimate goal is to have the to have more coverage in the testing, right? So how can we achieve that? By passing the different data sets in the script, correct? So that is the main idea behind the data driven testing. The name itself says, right, data driven. So based on the data, like different data sets, we are going to execute our script. So this is brief about data driven testing. Now let's talk about different benefits of using data driven testing in the framework. So reusability will be there, like we can use the same script with different data sets as we have discussed earlier. And scalability will be there, like easily we can handle large amount of data inside a single script, correct? And maintainability will be there, like we need to just like maintenance will be very easy. So let's say suppose we want to execute the script with different type of data, then we need to just no need to update the script, we need to just update the test data, correct? Wherever we are accessing from, let's say we are using the Excel sheet, so we need to update our test data over here, and the script will be the same, there is no changes in the script. So we need to just pass this data to the script. And flexibility will be there, use external data source like Excel sheet or database, so it will be easy, and it will be flexible as well when we maintain our script like this, like the data in the separate like in a external file or from the database. Now what would be our approach, right? What are the different classes which we are going to implement as part of this data driven testing? So we are going to create one class, guys, a utility class, Excel reader utility, correct, to read the data from the Excel file. So that it handles reading data from Excel file using Apache POI. So we are going to use Apache POI library, using which, right, Apache POI library from the Java. So for that we need to add couple of dependencies which we are going to I'll show you before we start our script. So we are going to use Apache POI library to have this to implement the data driven testing. and reads data dynamically row by row and cell by cell, correct? So let's say we are going to use Excel file in our framework, data-driven testing framework. So let's say this is our Excel file. So how we are going to read the data row by row? So it will iterate the first row and it will read the data from the cell wise, correct, and then move to the next row and then read the data again cell wise, and so on, and returns data as list of arrays of list of strings. So I'll show you this one, how we are going to read the data using an array. Okay, so this is about Excel reader utility class which we are going to implement as part of our data driven testing, and there would be another class which we are going to have, data providers, right? So what is the usage of this Excel reader utility? It will read the data from Excel file, right, the Excel reader utility, and then Excel reader utility will pass the data to data providers. Like we'll write one method over here in Excel reader utility, and that will be accessed by this data provider class. And then what it does, it provides test data to TestNG test methods. From data providers will pass our data to TestNG test methods, whatever test classes we have at the rate, wherever we have written at the rate test methods. Fetches data from Excel reader utility, right, which we discussed, and configured with at the rate data provider annotation. So we have at the rate data provider annotation in TestNG. So what we'll do, we'll write separate test methods, separate data provider methods to pass the data to test methods, right? Let's say for valid login, so we'll write one at the rate data provider method and we'll pass the data to valid login test, and we'll create another data provider method for invalid login test and we'll pass the data to at the rate test. So this is what we are going to achieve, guys, and let me show you practically how can we achieve that. So this is the project which we have created, Orange HRM project, and let me show you, like earlier we have hard coded the values in our classes, right? So if I open this login page test, so here you can see we have created this test method, verify valid login, and you can see here admin and admin123 username and password we are passing, like we have hard coded the value over here, right? Now we are going to parameterize it. We are going to pass these values from Excel file, correct, and similarly for invalid login test as well. So first of all, what we need, I'll open the pom.xml and I'll add couple of dependencies over here. So I'll just scroll down, and just before the dependencies tag, what I'll do, I'll add couple of dependencies. So we need a POI Maven dependency. So Maven repository site, so you just right click and open in new tab, and you can take this, the latest version 5.4.0. So I'll take this one, and this API, this dependency will handle XLS format, okay, the old format, and XLSX we need another API as well, another dependency. So I'll put it over here, and then so this is POI dependency, and we need OOXML POI API as well. This one dependency, this, and here also we have 5.4.0. so simply I'll use this one and I'll put it inside our pom.xml. Control Shift F to arrange it properly, and Control S to save it, right, to build the pom.xml, and it will download all the jars and build our library, correct? So this is done, guys. Now what we'll do, let me close this form.xml. The first thing, let me close this one also, login page test. And what we'll do, here we have src test resources, here we have test data folder which we have created at the beginning when we have started this framework. Now here we need to add the Excel file, correct? As part of this test data data driven testing, we are going to read the data from the Excel file, right? So what I'll do, I'll create the Excel file inside here in the test data folder. So you can directly create from this file option. What I will do, I'll just go to the properties and open the project folder location, test data, and inside that what I'll do, I'll create simply Excel file over here, and let's say I'll give name like test data. And if I open here, let's say we are going to pass the data for our login test and invalid login test, right? So what I'll do, simply I'll rename this worksheet. I would say like valid login data, and here what are the columns we want? Username and password. We need username and password, right? And for Orange HRM, what is the username? Admin and admin123. So this is how we can give, right? And this is valid login data. Now another will take invalid login data, and simply copy the username and password from here, and I'll put it over in the invalid login data. And simply we want invalid data over here, right? So simply I'll change the username to admin1, and you can change the password as well, but that's fine. Anyone is we can keep it like wrong value, and we can keep the values like this. So this is done, guys. So let me close it. So what we have done, we have just created one Excel file inside our, and let me refresh so that you can see inside this test data, right? So I'll close it, then you'll see this test data.xlsx format. Close it. So you can see test data has been created over here. Now let's start creating the script from. So what I'll do, I'll go to the main src main Java folder, and here we have already created com.orangehrm.utilities. So inside this package, what I'll do, I'll create one class, and I'll give name Excel Reader Utility, Excel Reader Utility class, right? And click on finish. Now what I'll do, guys, we need couple of methods. So first method, like we need get sheet data, right, to get the data from worksheet, and another one is how we are going to capture the cell value. So what I'll do, I'll write the first method like cell value first, right? Private and static string get cell value. So what we are going to do, we are going to use in when we write the get sheet data method. So we'll use this get cell value inside that method. So let me, because when we get the data in the Excel sheet, so it will be in different format, like in Boolean format, like true and false, or it will be numeric, or it will be in date format. So different format will be there. So that's the reason we are going to have that like proper value in the string format, right? So that's the reason I'm creating one method called get cell value. So here what we'll do, we'll pass the cell parameter like this. So I have just given the reference with this interface, cell interface. So simply we need to import this from apache.py.sss user model, correct? And here what we'll do, I'll write one if condition. If cell is equal to null, right? If the value is null, then simply will return blank string, correct, blank value. So this is, we can write, and then what we'll do, I'll write switch case statement, guys, with because we get different data. So to format those data, we'll use switch case, and here I'll say cell dot get cell value, cell dot get cell type, right? And inside that, what we'll do, we'll create different cases, correct? What is the cell type, right? So let's say if it is like a string, correct? So how to get the string value? Simply cell, or we can directly use return statement, cell dot get cell, we have method get string cell value, correct? Like this we can return this string value. And we need another case statement with, if it is numeric, right? And there will be condition inside that, like let's say if it is date format, right? Date util class we can use, and is cell formatted, we can use this method, this is fine. And inside that, what I'll do, how to format that, return cell dot get date cell value, right? And convert it to string, like this. And if it is like numeric, like if it is let's say if it is in decimal or something, then how we can do that? Return string dot value of method is there, and here what we'll do, inside that, cell dot get numeric cell value, we can do like this, right? We can format like this. And to convert into integer type, we can simply use int value, int, we can cast with int, like this, right? So this is done. Now what I'll do, I'll write another case statement, is boolean, and here return cell dot get boolean cell value. We need to convert into string, so string dot cell dot value of cell dot get boolean cell value, like this we can write. So this is done, guys. And what we'll do, another like default value, we can return the blank value, correct? If it is not all those types, so we can do like this, Control Shift F to arrange it properly. So we have just written one get cell value, correct? And we are passing the cell value over here, reference type of cell interface, the value cell. So this is done. Now what we'll do, we'll create another method, the main method public and static. I'll use static, so that we can call that method using this class name. And what we'll do, we'll have list of arrays of string, right? So we need to create string of arrays. I would say list of arrays of string, because we'll get multiple data in the Excel sheet. So we can create like this the return type of this method, and let's say get sheet data. We can give the method name like this, correct? And we have to import this list from java.util, and here let's say we need to insert the return type, so we'll do that later on. And here we'll pass couple of parameters like file path, we need Excel file path, and string we need sheet name, right? We need to access the particular sheet. So this is how we can do. And here what we'll do, we need one data variable, correct? How we are going to store the data. So what I'll do, I'll create list of array of string data, like this we can do. And we'll create the object of array list. We are going to use array list, guys, array list over here, because that is resizable array and we can store the data in array list, right? Because we don't know like how much data will be there, how many data rows will be there. And we'll give the reference of this list interface over here, right? And simply we can array list like this, and we have to import from java.util. So like that we can create one data variable. And what I'll do, I'll give the comment properly, like data variable is defined as a list of arrays of strings, correct? String. And here, so this will finally will store the data in this one when we read the Excel file, right? Now what we'll do, we need to read the data, to access the Excel file. We need to create the object of file input stream, and we need to create the object of workbook as well, right? The particular sheet, like how many sheets we are working on with the Excel file, we need to create the object of that as well. So what we'll do, when we work with file input stream, then it will throws the declaration, right, exception. And then either we need to do try catch block, or we need to throws the declaration, right? So what we'll do, I'll use try statement with resources, right? Try with resources statement. So how to write this, use try, and inside that we'll create the object of file input stream class, file input stream. And here I'll use FIS. So create the object like this, correct, guys? And just close the bracket over here, a semicolon, and just mouse over here. So we need to import file input stream from java.io. So this FIS object will, like, using which we can read the Excel file, and later on to work with Excel file we need to create another object, right? So here we need to just pass this file path, do like this. Now what we'll do, so we have written just inside try with resources, this statement is called try with resources. Inside that bracket we can write, we can give the statements. So no need to close using finally block, like automatically once resources are done, like objects are done with the whatever activities which we are going to perform with those objects, it will be automatically closed, like this FIS. And I'm going to create another one. What is the another one which we are going to create for workbook? So using workbook reference variable, so I would say workbook book will create the object of XSF workbook class. Correct. We can do like this, and let me import it. Why it is not showing? So that's fine. So what you'll do, you can simply Control Shift O, you can press. I don't know why it is not, it was not showing. Now you can see it is automatically imported, guys. Here you can see Control Shift O, right? And here it will, this is what we discussed, right? Add throws declaration and add catch. So what we'll do, I just written the try statement over here. Now we'll write at the end the catch statement. So that we'll do later on. What we'll do here, so we need to access the sheet, right? Worksheet. So for that, before that we need workbook. Workbook we have already created. Now we need to access the sheet, right? So I'll use the sheet interface reference variable sheet, and then workbook dot get sheet. Correct. This is how we can do, and here we will provide the sheet name over here. So this is how we can do, and we have to import the sheet from apache.org.apache.py.ss user model. Now we'll write one if condition over here. If sheet is equal to null, then what we'll do, we'll simply throw an exception, throw new girl argument exception, and inside that what we'll do, we'll simply say like a sheet or worksheet sheet name doesn't exist, right? We can do like this, and after that what we'll do, now how we are going to iterate, right? So using this we can get the, we can access the sheet worksheet in the Excel file, and later on what we'll do, we'll iterate through rows. So we'll use for each loop, guys, and here simply I'll use the reference variable of row interface, right? In the Apache PI we have this row interface, and simply you need to just import apache.org.apache.py.ss.user model, and here we'll iterate the sheet, right? So this is how we can write, and we write we'll ignore, right? We'll ignore in, if it is, we'll ignore the first row, right? So how to do that? If row dot get row number is equal to 0, so simply we'll ignore that and continue with the next row, right? So this is how we can write, and in the same for loop what we are going to do, read, we'll read the Excel file, right? So let me show you that one, or how we are going to do. So we'll read rows wise first, and then all the cell wise, correct? So we'll access the first row, and then we'll read what is the cell value, and then we'll go to the next cell in the same row, and so on, right? So this is what we are going to do. So in the inside this for each loop, what we are going to do, read all cell in the row, like this. We can put the comment, and then what I'll do, I'll create one temporary variable like array to store the values, and later on we'll add that into our main data array over here, array list, right? So what we can do here, I'll create array of string over here. I would say row data, and new array list, like this we can create, right? So what we'll do, we'll write for loop now for each loop, and here using cell interface reference variable cell, and we'll iterate through the entire row. So this is how we can do. And then row data dot add, and here what we'll do, the method which we have written, right, get cell value. So we are iterating through the complete row one by one, all the cells. So what I'll do, simply I'll copy this and put it over here, get cell value, and here I'll put cell over here. So this is done, guys. So far it is done. Now what we'll do, after this we need to convert this row data, right? We get the value, we have in values here in the row data. Now what we'll do, convert row data to array. So how we are going to do that, to, I would say, string array, right? So how we are going to do, data, the variable which we have created, data array dot add, and here row data dot, we have function the method called row to array. And how we are going to create the array with 0 object, we can simply use new string and pass 0 value to over here, like this we can do, correct? So this will convert into array, and then we'll add that array into our main array which we have declared at top. So this is done, and finally we'll write one catch block over here, and here let's say IO exception, and inside that we need to just import this IO exception from java.io, and here e dot print stack trace, correct? And after this block we can write, simply will return the return data, like this, correct? So that will give us list of arrays of string, correct? So this is how we can write, and control shift. So we are done with Excel reader utility class, guys, and let me just quickly recap and review it. So we have created one method called get sheet data inside Excel reader utility that will accept two parameters, string file path and sheet name, the file which from which we take the data, the Excel file, and sheet name, right? And later on we have created one variable called data that will accept a string list of string arrays, and we have created the object to read the Excel file input stream. We have created the object FIS, and here we have provided the path, the file path, the Excel file which we are going to read, and later on we have created the object of workbook, and here we need to pass FIS, we forgot to pass it, and later on we get the sheet using get sheet method, and later on we have just iterated all the rows and columns, right? Rows and then corresponding cells, and we have created internally one method called get cell value to get the exact value, exact data type value from the Excel sheet. So this is what we have done so far. What we'll do now, as per the our PPT, right? So we have created Excel reader utility. Now we need to create another class called data provider. So what it will do, it provides test data to the TestNG test methods and fetches the data from Excel reader utility. So we need to call this method from data provider class. So what I'll do, I'll create, right click on the utilities package, and we'll create class called data providers. Click on finish, and here what we'll do, we'll create one to read the file, right? We need to read the file, Excel file. So what I'll do, I'll create one variable, static, public static, let's say final, because we are going to, this is not going to change, and I'll give name like file path, and here we'll provide the file path, system dot get property user dot user directory, right? So this will give us the exact root directory of the project, and later on we need to get the exact data. Right click and properties, from src we need to get, so just put it over here. You can give backslash, double slash, or you can give single slash like this. So this is done, guys, and we have to add semicolon at the end, right? So we have just given the file path over here. Now what we'll do, we'll create one method, right? Private static get sheet data, and to work with data providers we need to return the data as object of 2D array. Okay, so what we'll do, that will accept any data type. So here what we'll do, we can give the return type as object of 2D array, right? So this is how we can do, and let's give the parameter sheet name or sheet data. We can give anything, let's say sheet name only. We'll give one parameter name, sheet name, from which we get the data. And later on what we'll do, we need to call this method, right? We need to call this get sheet data method. So simply we can call, because that is static, so we can call get sheet data, and here we'll provide the file path. Here we need to provide the file path and sheet name over here, like this we can give, and this will return the list of arrays of string, right? So simply I'll give like this, and let's give the variable name as sheet data. So we can give like this. Later on what we'll do, we need to create the object of 2D array, correct, to store those values. So simply what we'll do, let's give the name like data, and here we need to create the object of this object array. So what we'll do, now we need to initialize it with sheet data dot, how many rows will be there, dot size, right? So it will gives the number of rows, so that will be total number of rows in the Excel sheet, and how many columns will be there? The first row contains how many columns? So how we can get that? Sheet data dot get I get of 0, like first row, dot I would say length, right? So that gives us the column. So this is how we can initialize this, and later on what we'll do, we need to just write for loop to iterate the entire rows, right, to get the data from the Excel sheet. So what I'll do, int I is equal to 0, I less than sheet data dot size, correct, and I plus plus, simply we'll write one for loop, and here data of I, that will represent the entire rows, guys, and we'll get the all the values and we'll store in this data. So sheet data dot get of get method, like this we can do, and simply we have to return the data, correct. So this simply represent the entire column, entire rows, and we get the username and column, and that will be converted because we have already iterated through Excel reader utility all the rows and columns, and that will be stored in this data object now when we call this method, right? Then get sheet data method, so it will be stored in this object 2D object array. So our username, like our columns, whatever we have and whatever values we have, it will be stored in this 2D array. So this is done. Now what we'll do, we need to create data providers methods, right? So for that, what I'll do, I'll create data provider annotation, but before that let me write the method public static. We'll declare it as public because we are going to call this object of 2D array, right? And let's say valid login data, and here return, how it will return, get sheet data. We'll call this method internally, get sheet data, and here we need to provide the sheet name, right? So what is the sheet name which we are working on? Like we want to get data, valid login data, right? So simply just make sure you should get the correct name. So valid login data, like this we can get the data, and this is for login data, right? Correct. So I'll write another method for invalid login data, and here also we need to simply give the sheet name. So we have created two methods, guys, correct, valid login data and invalid login data. Now we need to just give the annotation data providers over here. Data provider, that is the annotation, and here we have to give the name of the data provider, valid login data, and yeah, that's it. And here we have to add, we need to import data provider from org.testng.annotations. Similarly, we need to give the data provider annotation for invalid login as well. So here I'll give invalid login data. So this is data provider name, you can give anything, and but while calling this method you need to provide this data provider name, right? And this one, don't confuse with this one. This one is the sheet name, correct? So this is done. So what we'll do now is simply we need to call this valid login data and invalid login data from our test methods, correct? So this is done, So let me just quickly recap. So we have created one method called getSheetData. Initially we have just created the string file path and provided our file path over here, and later on we have created one method called getSheetData, and later on we have just created two methods, valid login data and invalid login data. Now we need to just call those from our test classes, right? So here what we'll do, here we need to just give like data provider is equal to, what is the data provider we have here, valid login data, just put it over here, comma, data provider class, you can give like this, and simply data provider dot class, like this. We need to give the data provider class, right? So here what we'll do, simply we have to change it to data provider, yeah, this should be small, guys. So data provider, like this we have to give. Similarly we have to give this for the invalid login, or let's do this for verify valid login test first. So here I'll pass two parameters, string username, string password. So earlier we have hard coded it, right? So simply I'll just make it dynamic. So simply provide the username over here and password. The rest of the things will be taken care by the data which we have entered, which we have given in the Excel sheet. So while executing this test case, so this is done. Now what I'll do, simply I'll copy it from here and put it over here for the invalid login test, and here we have to change the invalid login data, the data provider name, right? And here also we need to just give string username and string, the parameters we need to change, password, and simply provide this over here as well. Sorry, username, and to give like this, correct? So this is how you can provide your data to your test methods. Now everything looks good. We have created data provider, and here also everything looks good, so our test case should work. So let me try to execute it, whether it is working fine or not. So what I'll do, I'll open testng.xml and simply let's try to run it. So as you all know that, guys, something went wrong, I guess. We got some failure, I guess. One speed null pointer exception. Method public void login page test. Let me close this first, and let's quickly review. I think everything looks good. Let me review this login page test. So here we have given the data provider class. So our class name is data providers, guys. So this is the mistake I made over here, and we have to import data providers from com.orangesrm.utilities, which we have created, right? So similarly for here as well, data providers the class. So that is the mistake I made. Now what I'll do for the second run, what I'll do, I'll create another row in our in test data, and let's say admin and admin123. So it will run 2 times. This test case will run 2 times, right? Login page test, very login test data. So I'll close this, and what I'll do, the second thing is, for home page also we can call the same method. So home page test. So here home page also we are using the same, right? Login admin and admin123, like we need to log in the application. So simply I'll call the same data provider method over here as well in the. So let me just simply copy this and I'll put it over here. No need to write the separate data providers for this valid login for Orange HRM logo test. So here I can simply give string username and string password. Simply use this. Username and password over here. So all done, I guess. So let me just run it again. I think this time it should work. Right click, run as TestNG suite. So I think this time it looks fine. So let's see. So you can see, guys, everything looks fine. So 7 test cases. We have deliberately failed 1 test case, if you remember from the previous class, right? And skip 1 test case. And you can see, if you see over here, we have just given the data, right? So you can try from here login page test. So you can see admin1 and admin123. This is one set of data. And if it is hard coded, then it won't show over here, right, the data which we have used. And the second thing is here, sorry, this is for invalid login test, admin1 and admin123, which we have provided, and verify valid login test. Here you can see admin and admin123, and we have provided 2 times, right? So that's why it is showing 2 times over here. This method got executed 2 times. For Orange HRM also we have given 1 data over here, admin123, and this is also going to execute 2 times, right? Because same method will execute, we have given 2 times in the Excel sheet. So admin and admin123 here and here as well. So this is how you can do the parameterization in the framework. So we are done for today, guys, and let me just show you what we are going to do in the next video. So we are going to add the DB test case in the framework. So we'll do the database connectivity, and we'll create one database test case as well in the framework. So this is all for today. So let me know if you have any questions related to how we have created the Excel reader utility and data providers class. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Bye bye.